In this panel, we have Mr. Jiro Kodera, who's a Counselor, Economy and Development from Embassy of Japan in India, New Delhi. We have Mr. Jhaka Prasad Acharya, the Consul General of the Consulate General of Nepal in Kolkata. Mr. Jhaka Prasad Acharya has very recently taken charge, and it's probably in December that he has taken charge as the Consul General of Nepal in Calcutta. So welcome to Calcutta and welcome to the seminar, Mr. Jhaka Prasad Acharya. And then we have Mr. Sri Shapon Das Gupta, former member of Rajya Sabha, Government of India. So if you could kindly call all of them to the dais. I pass on the proceedings to you. It's a 35-minute session.
Thank you, Sambit, and a very warm welcome to our post-lunch audience. A little bit soporific, but nonetheless, with brain-fed, stomach-fed, we're all back in action. So I warmly welcome our three distinguished panelists on this panel on diplomacy. So we have Mr. Jiro Kodera-san from the Embassy of Japan in India. He's a specialist in economy and development, and Japan has single-handedly invested a great deal of money in the Northeast, possibly one of the largest, if not the largest foreign investor, largest by far, by a long mile in the Northeast. Then we have Mr. Jhaka Prasad Acharya, Consul General of Nepal, Consul General of Nepal in Calcutta. Very warm welcome to you. And I think you'll be talking about trade. Your focus, because Nepal being landlocked, is perennially concerned about trade and trade links. And then we have Dr. Swapan Das Gupta, former member of the Rajya Sabha Government of India, who is, of course, he has a large educational cachet, and I think he is ideally suited to the role of a track 2 diplomat, or even a track 1, if I'm not wrong. So I shall request Kodera-san to talk, but let me just speak for exactly 2 minutes. To sort of just 2 minutes to talk about what this diplomacy in this area really means. And while I was listening to all these sessions today, somebody in one of the sessions said that, we don't want to ruffle feathers. Well, no diplomat wants to ruffle feathers, but the point is, you want to have goose for dinner, but you don't want the goose to be killed. In other words, diplomacy might even be the art of making an omelette without even breaking the egg. I don't know if this makes sense to you, but it makes no sense to me. But a lot of diplomacy it makes no sense at all. But we have to make sense of it. In this region of Southeast Asia, 1967 watershed year, ASEAN is formed. Cold War is in progress. 1989, Bob Hawke of Australia says, we're isolated, we've got to get out there. He proposes the APEC, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, which actually becomes a reality. A few years later, Mahathir Mohamad talks about the East Asia Economic Caucus because he dislikes intensely the United States. And he says that who is the natural leader of the EAEC but Japan? And he was projecting Japan at the time as a natural counterweight to American hegemony. Today, India, under Act East, has actually gone deeply immersed in ASEAN and the East Asian countries, where India is greatly required. They feel India is indispensable to their own, not to itself. Southeast Asians believe that India is indispensable to the future of Southeast Asia, because for God's sake, such a large neighbor with largely barricaded markets is tantalizing, So they wanted India to join the free trade agreement which India kind of backed out of, citing uneven development of manufacturing and trading sectors. So with those brief remarks, I request Kodara-san to walk us through, but to our three distinguished panelists, let's keep it to about 7 minutes each, because we must get some hot air flowing at us from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. AMI Japan Dutabas no Orsonoitic Counselor, Hishbe Kaj Korchi, Amarnam Jiro Kodera, A Chomotoka, Shon Merene Amake, Amantron Jananor, John no Donobat. Thank you. Today, I'd like to take this precious opportunity to talk about why Japan has focused on the development of Northeast India and what kind of cooperation we have actually carried out and what we plan to do in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, the development of East and Northeast India is extremely important for Japan. In fact, Japan has extended tremendous support and investment in this region for an extensive period. This is because this region is a vital conduit between India and Southeast Asia and Japan. And Japan views the East and Northeast region as strategically critical. As an island nation, Japan's peace and prosperity hinge on the Indo-Pacific Oceans and its sea lanes. Through these sea lanes, Japan imports nearly all natural resources, including gas, oil, and the majority of mineral resources. Therefore, it is essential to our national security that democracies along these sea lanes flourish sustainably. For this reason, in 2007, former Prime Minister Abe proposed a free and open Indo-Pacific here in India, and in 2023, former Prime Minister Kishida proposed the industrial value chain concept connecting Bay of Bengal and Northeast India, which unifies East and Northeast India, Bangladesh, and other neighboring countries of the Bay of Bengal regions into a whole economic zone with a market over 300 million people. The Northeastern region serves as a convergence point for India's Act East policy and the Japan's and world's foreign policy. Japan has made tremendous efforts to develop this region in terms of not only economic interests, but also political, diplomatic, and strategic interests. In fact, Japan possesses practical expertise in establishing infrastructure and economic corridors, such as East-West Economic Corridor and the Southern Economic Corridor in Mekong region. Ladies and gentlemen, history has shown that Northeast India and the Bay of Bengal region were once thriving centers of trade. To rekindle this potential, Japan has provided over 22,000 crore rupees in ODA in areas such as roads, water supply and sewage, electricity, healthcare, and biodiversity. Among these, the flagship support is Northeast Road Network Connectivity Improvement Project. This project connects Turadalu, Shirondoki, Dubri-Fulbari, Kalinshaba, Kyoe, and Kyoe Sabroom, enhancing connectivity in the state of Assam, Meghalaya, and Tripura by constructing and upgrading national highways and bridges. Simultaneously, Japan is improving access on the Bangladesh side through the cross-border road network improvement project, including bridge construction to enhance Dhaka-Benapur and Bariara-Ramgarh access. Additionally, Japan is constructing Matabari Deep Sea Port in Bangladesh, which will be a game changer when it is commercially operational in 2027, just 3 years from now. Japan aims to create an economic zone of 300 million people by connecting Kolkata and Dhaka with Matabari Port. At the same time, Japan is providing safe and stable water supply services to meet the increasing demand due to the rapid population growth. And additionally, Japan is contributing the well-being of grassroots people through such as forest and biodiversity conservation project in West Bengal. Ladies and gentlemen, what potential does this region hold for the future? I'd like to focus on 3 points: agriculture, human resources and skill development, and semiconductors. First, agriculture. A Japanese mushroom company has collaborated with the state of Meghalaya to install a mushroom bed production facility at the Mushroom Development Center. This facility will boost mushroom cultivation capacity, benefiting hundreds of local farmers. Also, Japanese buckwheat noodle experts assisting in the development of buckwheat noodles in Meghalaya. Additionally, JICA has provided technical cooperation to promote bamboo industry, including development of innovative designs to enhance marketability of bamboo products and provision of training in bamboo craft skill development and financial management. A Japanese overseas cooperation volunteer is providing technical guidance on bamboo crafts at the Tripura Forest Department. Recently, he also participated in the Hornbill Festival in Nagaland, where he demonstrated his exceptional craftsmanship. Furthermore, our farms, a company that has successfully cultivated Japanese strawberry varieties in Nepal, improving farmers' incomes and promoting women's social advancement, is exploring the potential for strawberry cultivation in Northeast India and West Bengal. The northern states are agricultural states, and we must harness this potential. Second, human resources and skill development. An industrial value chain is not simply created by building roads, bridges, and railways. It is people who develop farmland, start businesses, and nurture industries. And it is essential to cultivate human resources. However, many young people in Northeast India have high educational qualification but struggle to find employment. Meanwhile, Japan is facing an aging population. India and Japan are best partners, complementing each other's strengths and weaknesses through technical intern training program and the specified skill worker
1
scheme.
minute.
1 minute. Okay. Japan accepts Indian workers in the field such as agriculture, construction, caregiving, and hospitality for 3 to 5 years through OJT. Third, finally, semiconductors. This is quite a new news. And at the end of February this year, Tata Group announced the establishment of OSAT factory for semiconductor back-end processes in Morigaon, Assam, together with Dorera and Sanand in Gujarat. Semiconductor industry is a highly prioritized industry for both India and Japan, and both countries signed the Japan-India Semiconductor Supply Chain Partnership in October 2023. As you know, the semiconductor industry involves design, manufacturing, assembly, and inspection, with various companies forming clusters. Some Japanese companies have already shown interest in participating in the Morigaon Semiconductor Cluster. If it is realized, Japanese companies have already shown, if it is realized, Japanese companies would be willing to join. Additionally, JICA, JETRO, and JBIC are supporting these Japanese companies by facilitating the discussions in the JCCII Semiconductor Committee. The Japanese government is fully committed to supporting these initiatives by Japanese and Indian companies. Finally, Japan is committed to the development of Northeast region with strategic significance. With experience in realizing economic corridors in the Mekong region, Japan has been providing support in various fields and will continue to contribute to the development of Northeast region, focusing on agriculture, human resources, and semiconductors. In conclusion, I hope this conference will make a significant contribution to realizing an industrial value chain of 300 million people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jiro-san. We are quite surprised and enlightened to learn that 22,000 crores worth of funds invested, Japanese funds have flown into the Northeast. May I now invite Mr. Jhaka Prasad Acharya, Consul General of Nepal, to deliver his comments.
Thank you. Respected members of Bengal Chamber and Commerce and Industry, academics, business leader, Rising Asia Foundation, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and good afternoon. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as well as Rising Asia Foundation for inviting and welcoming me to a part of this highly valued program. First of all, I would like to very brief introduction of Nepal because most of all you are known about the Nepal. Basically, Nepal is a country known as a globally dramatic landscape. The Himalayas, including the Mount Everest, highest peak of Nepal of the world. Second one is the birthplace of Lord Buddha. It is the symbol of peace. As well as Nepal stands as a symbol of unity of diversity, celebrating peace-loving people, biodiversity, and cultural richness. Regarding the economic overview, I just mentioned the status of the GDP composition. It reflects the scenario, how we have to focus there. Within the GDP composition, it is a portion of around 63% is the service sector, 24% is agriculture, and only 30% in the industrial sector. So it reflects that the whole sector is diverting towards the service. In terms of strategic area of the regional cooperation and the diplomacy, basically energy is the first part of the Nepal. Nepal is often called the water tower of the South Asia. With a theoretically hydropower potential is 83,000 megawatt and economically potential 42,000 megawatt. Now our installed capacity is currently 3,243 megawatt and our local demand is only around 2,200. So the private sector and foreign participation through the liberalized policy, we are always welcoming there. Similarly, with the around 365 days, 300 days of the sunshine annually. Solar energy, wind power is also immense. The province promotes the renewable energy in the investment. To promote this sector, the sector presents the immense opportunity for regional partnership, particularly under the BBIN system, ensuring energy cooperation and the regional cooperation. Nepal and India have been done power trade agreement and tripartite agreement has been reached Nepal, India and Bangladesh. Since the trade and industry, Nepal is two-thirds trade relies on the India. Nepal's overall two-thirds trade is we are imported from the India. The present figure is now it seems some imbalance. The key sector includes textile, ready-made garment, paspina, handicraft, tea, spices, raw oils, as well as emerging sectors such as Himalayan spring water, processed food, IT-based industries are gaining the prominence. Over 6,200 foreign investors are registered in Nepal because we do have the such kind of policy to attract the foreign investment, one-stop service, including the such as the industrial security, visa facility, as well as the repatriation of the earnings. Including this, Nepal is the focusing country in terms of demographic dividend. In our population, within 30 million, there are 15 to 50 years age is around 57%. Like the tourism, Nepal is the very attractive country towards tourism. In between, I would like to request to visit all of you once Nepal. It is renowned in terms of the Everest Base Camp, Annapurna Circuit, Himalayan Great Trail. There are 173 star hotels, including travel agencies, trekking agencies. They are providing the world-class hospitality and experience. Agriculture, basically, we have the GDP contribution is around 24%. but it provides the around 60% employment of the local people. In terms of agriculture, between the regional cooperation and diplomacy, it is a part of to enhance the matter. Like we have two unique high value crops like cardamom, hill ginger, turmeric, tea, avocado are organically grown in our pristine environment. In the eastern region of Nepal, hold the significant potentiality for the collaboration with the neighboring countries, including West Bengal, in fresh vegetable production, organic product, and the sheep farming. Opportunity exists investment for agro processing, modernization of the irrigation system, and export-oriented agriculture, particularly targeting the regional market, India and China. So for the investment opportunities, basically, we do have a strategy location between the two world largest market, India and China. Second
One
one is
minute, sir.
sorry, sir. Okay, sir. We do have very low cost labor forces available. In terms of regional cooperation, expanding the trade and connectivity, improvement of the transit agreement and the trade, encouraging the agriculture, hydropower and tourism, or leveraging the BBN framework. Nepal recognized the most important partnership addressing the trade deficit, enhancing the trade potential. So regionally diplomacy is no longer confined political dialogue. It is about the connecting the people, market and ideas. As a neighbor, South Asia, we have a privilege to responsibility to turn the geographical proximity, economic strength. A platform like BMSTEC, SARC, BBIN provide avenues to the foster deeper and cooperation across the trade, infrastructure and tourism. In terms of the regional diplomacy, we do have 3 to 4 parts. One of the connectivity, second one energy collaboration, third is trade and investment. Beyond the politics, we do have a further connection and cooperation, like the academic collaboration, entrepreneurship and innovation, tourism and culture. Finally, Nepal is the land of opportunities from the agriculture, tourism, energy and industry. So we invite you to explore the country's untapped potential. Nepal committed building a future and sustainable, inclusive and prosperous, driven by the regional cooperation and international beyond the border. Thank you. I stop here.
Thank you, Consul General Acharya, for your comments. May I now request Dr. Swapan Banerjee, Swapan Dasgupta to deliver his comments.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to this Rising Asia and Bengal Chamber Summit. It's called the Rise of the East. Now, I recall first confronting the question of the revival of the East sometime in 1972. It's somewhat intriguing that 50 years later, the same narrative continues to play. In one sense, we are talking about beyond borders and politics. That's the issue which was presented to me. If you notice that I'm a bit of an interloper in this particular panel, because ideally, it should have been a representative of perhaps Myanmar and Bangladesh. Now, perhaps you should wonder, in a world which can transcend politics and boundaries, why that is so. Mr. Banerjee, in his earlier comments, spoke about the necessity, over the charms of making that road trip from Thailand to the northeast via road. And it would come via Mandalay. Now, I remember making that trip in 1999 from the other way, Imphal to Mandalay. Now, today, if you were to take that trip, you would really be taking your life in your hands. Because the reality is that Myanmar is now in a state of complete anarchy. And it's ruled by about 4 different sort of factions, groups, etc., including one which is almost threatening to take over Chittagong. Our relationship with Bangladesh was at a very, at an all-time high. I met Mr. Banerjee again in a conference in Sylhet about last year, if I'm not mistaken, where there was a Silchar-Sylhet dialogue. Now that, unfortunately, or whatever people might say, is history. Today we are talking about a decline of 69% in terms of the healthcare from Bangladesh, the healthcare sort of health tourism from Bangladesh which we used to get. So we can talk in an ideal world about how we can transcend borders, how we can become a bit like the European Union, etc. But the reality is that that's not going to help. Japan is probably one of the only exceptions to this. Japan invested in India politically, and that translated into both a strategic dimension as well as an economic dimension. It is said that when Shinzo Abe was unfortunately assassinated, the greatest mourning anywhere in the whole world was perhaps in India. Now, the issue of the Northeast is intimately tied up with what is the state of play in Bengal. Because in one way or the other, the gateway of the Northeast in its eastern direction lies through Bengal. It need not have been so, but it's a reality. And it's also very interesting to find where that stands. There was a time when Kolkata was the natural destination of everyone from the Northeast. Today, there are probably 20 times more students from the Northeast in Delhi and Bangalore than there are in Calcutta. So, the problem which the Northeast has often faced is that it has got associated with the relative decline of the largest partner of the East. So whereas Assam is talking about a semiconductor industry, the benefits which should have accrued naturally to Assam does not, in a perceptual way, accrue to it because it becomes a part of the East. So this is a larger political problem which we have to resolve in our own minds, which we have to resolve because the Northeast is exceptionally dependent. Take, for instance, in 2017, the largest bridge which was constructed, which linked Assam to Arunachal. It's a marvel. In Bangladesh, they sold the idea of the Padma Setu, which linked up. This was probably a much greater feat. But to what extent has that been acknowledged? We took a delegation only 2 weeks ago of very eminent American Republicans who are very close to the Trump administration from Delhi to Arunachal. Because we thought it was important that they actually look at a state which has its own geopolitical, geostrategic complications, etc. But the biggest issue which the Arunachalis faced, and the same, what the assets which you spoke about in Nagaland, exist there as well. terms of agriculture, in terms of skills, etc., in terms of ecotourism, in terms of the sheer beauty of the place. But again, communication and the relative decline of the place which was the staging post to the northeast. So we come across a huge paradoxical thing that whereas the northeast is raring to go, it is unfortunately being held back by the place which should have been its greatest launching pad. And Indian diplomacy looking east can help, but the benefits of that diplomacy seem to accrue more to the big corridor in the south and western India, because that's seen as the real energy of India. And in the east, we get left out. And for 50 years, we talk about the rise of the east all over again. So I think it's this tragedy which we need to ponder over when we are talking, and we think and we hope with some degree of optimism towards the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Swapan Dasgupta. You have finished even before the bell rang. Very well done. So I think we have covered a lot of ground, starting with hardcore Japanese real investments on the ground. The Nepal zone, you gave us a good summary of your trade patterns. And you looked at how Indian diplomacy, the various benefits that accrued from that diplomacy to certain parts of India, leaving certain other parts untouched, if I may summarize. Let's open it up to questions. Yes.
Hello. My question is to Mr. Dasgupta. My name is Oyun Banerjee. I'm a corporate consultant. Mr. Dasgupta, in this forum today in the morning, it was mentioned that India had very solid ties and relationships with countries across Southeast Asia for 1,000 years. Unfortunately, the last few years' track record shows something different, not only for Southeast Asian countries, but for all the neighbors of India. So instead of looking at Bengal and asking why, don't you feel that at a national leadership level, things could have been taken forward on a more constructive approach?
Well, insofar as foreign policy belongs to the in the realm of the government in Delhi, yes, certainly there is a case for that. Now, the point is, India's relationship with the Southeast Asia is actually one of the best has been for a real long time. If you include Southeast Asia to mean Thailand, you mean it to include Vietnam, you mean it to include Singapore, you mean it to include Australia. With the solitary and Burma, actually, it's not, the relationship was fine till the complications there. The problem has arisen only with our immediate eastern neighbor. And that problem is of relatively immediate origin, and how it's going to shape up is anybody's guess. But I think all can be said is that if you would like the issue of national security to be compromised, to be abandoned for the sake of a mythical bonhomie, I think that would not be politically acceptable in a larger sphere.
Anything? Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, my question to Consul General of Nepal. I had been to Kanyam, such a beautiful place in eastern Nepal. Why you are not promoting? Means 10% of the tourists getting down at Siliguri, going to Gangtok, Sikkim or Darjeeling. If 10% of those tourists can travel to eastern Nepal, it's such a beautiful place. I have stayed there for 2 days. It's excellent. Why you are not promoting that?
So thank you for your question and very most valuable issues because Kannam, I mean the Ilam district is very beautiful as well as most attractive place for all tourists. So I think there is comparing with the past few years. Now it is very good in terms of hospitality, hotels, tourist guide, in terms of infrastructure, there is very well now. But there is very few issues that there is a very tea board is with the ownership of the Nepal government once upon the time. Now it's privatized for the private sector. The private sector are doing very well. But after the federal democratic governance system is established in Nepal, at that time local people, local level, I mean the municipality, rural municipalities, they are very much aggressive in terms of the earning the revenue. So they are trying to capture all the land, all the tree gardens. So they are disturbing. There are some dispute between the central government and the local government. So government is trying to resolve this issue by formulation committee. It will be solved within the few days. Thank you.
There's a question from Dr. Kathuria.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Harish. A question to Mr. Kodera. So my understanding is that the predominant Japanese investment that comes into the region, especially the northeast part, is kind of the large scale infrastructure, government supported, where there's a risk sharing obviously between the private sector and the government, but it's predominantly of the government variety or government supported and risk taking by government. What would it take in your view for more private sector to come in and invest in there's great potential in the northeast region. We talked, a lot of people including I spoke about the many good things including agriculture, right, and the tourism and the golf courses that Japanese like, the golf they like to play and so on. So what will it take in your view? Can you give us some hard sort of truths there?
Thank you very much. So that is what we are always thinking about. So ODA cannot support the development of the country as a whole. I think at the end of the day, we need an investment from even within domestically or internationally. And as I said, the semiconductor cluster, if it is realized in Morrigan, that can be a game changer. And also, as I said, agriculture is also another potential, I think. And at the same time, as a government of Japan, we have invested in the improvement of business environment through enhancing connectivity, through road network connectivities and railway network connectivity, so that Japanese businesses and other foreign businesses can easily invest in this area. But right now, actually, I'm always asking the Japanese businesses about the sentiment. Now, there's a little by little growing interest. Actually, the Mitsui Corporation and the Mitsubishi Corporation of Japan as the first branch, overseas branch, opened in Kolkata in 19th century. So this is a start of not only about the Indian business, but also the all Japanese overseas businesses. But unfortunately, now the Japanese company's interest is shifted in towards western area and southern area. We'd like to invest, encourage more Japanese companies in these areas. That's what we are aiming for. And gradually some companies like Toray and other Japanese companies have started to realize the potential of West Bengal and Northeast region, but we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And I
Yeah.
think the private sector in Japan, did you say they're waiting for some safety, for some
That is also
security
true.
to return?
That is also true. Yeah.
So till such something of that kind, and then
So, actually, the headache of the many Japanese companies are the frequent changes of investment and tax policy. So, like QCOs and the GST and other regulations. And so that is a headache for Japanese companies. And as a government of Japan and the embassy of Japan, we are always discussing with Ministry of Commerce to enhance the business environment in India.
thank you, Kodera-san. Thank you to all our panelists for a wonderful interaction. I'm glad we saved a few minutes to have the audience participate. Thank you.
Kodera-san? Arigato gozaimatsu. Is that how you pronounce it? That's thank you in Japanese to Kodera-san because he talked in Bengali, so we thought of returning the favor. Thank you so much for being here today. Mr. Dasgupta, in spite of his pressing schedule, he could manage. Mr. Prasad, he just came in and without even, when he came in, the invitation was already there and he accepted. So thank you so much. We're really privileged to have all of you today. And nothing more to add for Dr. Mehta, has been truly instrumental in driving the session. So with that, we have concluded the penultimate session of the day. And let me assure you, we will be in for surprises for the last session of the day because that's going to talk about cultural narratives of and preserving the heritage in Bengal and the Northeast. Trust me, you will have your surprises coming in this session. But we need to do the honors for this session. And for that, may I request Dr. Harish Mehta to kindly present the memento to Mr. Jiro Kodera. Sure.